house that never let anyone leave. Part final. The sound of the front door slamming shut echoed through the mansion like a gunshot. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He rushed back toward the staircase and looked down into the entrance hall. The heavy wooden door was closed, locked. He tried convincing himself it was only the wind, but there had been no wind since he entered the forest. He slowly descended the stairs and grabbed the cold brass handle. It wouldn't move. He pulled harder. Nothing. The door refused to open, almost as if the house itself had decided he wasn't leaving. A chill ran down his spine. He took a slow step backward, then another. Suddenly, tick. He froze. Tick. The enormous grandfather clock in the hallway had started moving. Its hands, frozen for decades at 3:17, began turning by themselves. Not forward, backward, slowly, minute by minute, year after year. The room grew darker as the hands spun faster. Dust swirled through the air like smoke. The portraits lining the walls seemed to watch him. Ethan blinked. One portrait had changed. The little girl in the painting was no longer looking toward the viewer. She was looking directly at him. Her painted smile slowly widened. "No," Ethan whispered. "This can't be real." He lifted his camera and took another photograph. The flash illuminated the hallway. When he checked the image, his blood turned to ice. The hallway was crowded. Dozens of pale figures stood around him. Men, women, children, every one of them stared silently at the camera. Yet when Ethan looked up, the hallway was empty. He quickly looked back at the screen. The figures had vanished. Only one remained, standing directly behind him. Ethan spun around. Nothing. His breathing became faster. He was no longer investigating a legend. He was surviving one. Trying to stay calm, he entered another room. It appeared to be an old library. Thousands of books lined the shelves. Most had rotted away long ago. One book rested alone on a wooden table. It looked almost new. Across its black leather cover, written in faded silver letters, were the words, "Visitors." Ethan opened it. Inside were names, hundreds of names. Every page listed another visitor. Each name was followed by a date. Some ended with "returned," others "missing." Then he reached the final page, blank, until dark ink slowly appeared across the paper, as though an invisible hand was writing, letter by letter. Ethan Walker. Below it, today's date. His breathing stopped. He slammed the book shut. The entire library shook violently. Books crashed from the shelves. A distant scream echoed somewhere upstairs. Not a scream of fear, a scream of unbearable pain. Then, silence. A faint melody drifted through the hallway. A music box, soft, gentle, almost comforting. Ethan followed the sound. It led him into a child's bedroom. The room was untouched by time. A tiny bed, a wooden horse, a porcelain doll sitting perfectly upright on a chair. On the windowsill rested a small music box. Its lid slowly opened by itself. The melody became louder. The little ballerina inside began spinning. Ethan stared. No batteries, no mechanism, nothing should have been moving. Then the doll's head turned, very slowly. Its glass eyes locked onto him. Its cracked lips moved, barely. "Run." The music stopped. Everything became silent again. Without warning, every toy in the room fell onto the floor at once. The wardrobe doors burst open. Cold air rushed across the room. Inside the wardrobe, There wasn't wood. There wasn't clothing. There was another hallway. Impossible, long, endless, covered in darkness. Someone was standing at the far end. A woman dressed entirely in black, her face hidden beneath a veil. She lifted one pale hand and slowly pointed toward Ethan. The lights in the room flickered. Once, twice, then complete darkness. His flashlight died. His camera shut off. The only sound remaining was slow breathing. Not his own. Someone else's. Very close. Right beside him. A whisper brushed against his ear. "So, you finally came." Ethan spun around wildly. His flashlight suddenly came back to life. The room was empty. The wardrobe was closed. Nothing inside. No hallway. No woman. Only darkness. He stepped backward. His foot struck something. He looked down. A photograph. Old, yellowed with age. It showed the Ashcroft family standing outside the mansion. Father, mother, 3 children, and 1 servant. Ethan frowned. He recognized the servant immediately. It was the old man from the gas station. Exactly the same face. Exactly the same age. As if he hadn't aged a single day in more than 100 years. Before Ethan could understand what he was seeing, a loud knock echoed from somewhere below. One knock, then another, then another. Not from the front door, from beneath the house, deep underground. Something was knocking from the basement, and whatever it was, it wanted to be found. The House That Never Let Anyone Leave, Part 3, the final chapter. The knocking continued, slow, heavy, deliberate. Each knock echoed through the mansion like the heartbeat of something enormous sleeping beneath the earth. Ethan stood motionless. The sound wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from directly beneath his feet, the basement. He stared toward the hallway. Every instinct told him to leave, but the front door remained locked. The windows refused to open. The house had only one direction left. Down. Holding his flashlight tightly, Ethan searched the entrance hall until he found a narrow wooden door hidden beneath the staircase. The handle was covered in rust. When he pulled it open, a freezing gust of air escaped from the darkness below. A steep stone staircase disappeared into the blackness. The knocking stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. Then a woman's voice drifted upward. "Please, help us." It sounded weak, broken, almost impossible to hear. Ethan slowly descended. Each step seemed colder than the last. The deeper he went, the more the walls changed. The stone was no longer ordinary. It was covered with strange symbols. The same symbols he had seen carved into the trees outside. Some were painted in faded red. Others appeared to have been scratched into the rock by human hands. After what felt like an eternity, he reached the bottom. His flashlight revealed an enormous underground chamber. It was far larger than the mansion above. Ancient pillars supported the ceiling. Hundreds of melted candles covered the floor. In the center of the chamber stood a massive circular stone door. It was at least 4 meters high. Chains wrapped around it from every direction. On the stone was carved a single sentence: "Fear is the key." As Ethan stepped closer, the chains began to rattle. One by one, they fell to the ground. The stone door slowly opened. Beyond it was complete darkness. Then, eyes. Dozens of glowing white eyes opened inside the darkness. They weren't human. They weren't animals. They simply watched. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. "You came willingly." The air became unbearably cold. Shadows poured from the doorway like black smoke. twisting around the room before slowly taking human shape. Faces began to appear. Young, old, men, women, children. Ethan recognized several faces from the photographs in the visitor's book. The missing students, the local hunter, a woman reported missing 20 years earlier. All of them stood silently with empty black eyes. Then one of them stepped forward. It was Elizabeth Ashcroft. Her appearance had changed. Her dress was torn. Dark cracks spread across her pale skin like broken porcelain. Tears rolled down her face. "We tried to leave," she whispered. "But the house remembers everyone." She pointed toward the darkness behind the stone door. "It isn't the house. It's what's beneath it." Suddenly, a deafening roar shook the chamber. The ground cracked beneath Ethan's feet. A gigantic shadow rose from the darkness. It had no face, only an endless mouth filled with hundreds of moving teeth. Its body shifted constantly, as though it were made from living smoke. Thousands of whispering voices came from inside it. Every victim, every soul still trapped. Ethan ran. The creature moved without touching the ground. The walls collapsed behind him. Ancient pillars crashed onto the floor. The mansion above groaned, as if the entire building were beginning to collapse. Ethan sprinted up the staircase. The whispers followed him. "Stay. You belong here. Don't leave us." He reached the entrance hall. The front door was open. Moonlight poured inside. He didn't stop running. He burst outside and raced across the overgrown garden toward the forest. Behind him, Ashcroft House began shaking violently. Every window exploded outward. The tower collapsed. The earth trembled. Then, the entire mansion slowly sank into the ground, stone by stone, wall by wall, until nothing remained. Silence returned to the forest. Ethan fell to his knees, exhausted. When the sun rose, rescue teams finally found him, wandering near the old road. He was alive, but he had changed. He refused to speak about what happened beneath the house. Whenever detectives asked about the missing people, he answered with the same sentence: "They're still there." Months passed. Ethan tried to continue his life. But every night at exactly 3:17 a.m., someone knocked 3 times on his apartment door. When he opened it, no one was there. His camera, which had been destroyed inside the mansion, suddenly appeared one morning on his desk. Its memory card still worked. There was one final recording. The footage showed Ethan running through the forest after escaping the mansion. He remembered that moment perfectly. Then the camera slowly turned on its own. Behind Ethan, Ashcroft House was still standing, completely untouched, watching him, waiting. The video ended with a single frame, a photograph of Ethan standing in front of the mansion. Except he wasn't alone. Behind every window, hundreds of pale faces stared directly at the camera. At the bottom of the image, words slowly appeared. "You escaped the house, but the house never escaped you." Ethan destroyed the camera. He burned every photograph. He never told his story again. Years later, hikers claimed they found a lonely mansion hidden deep inside Black Hollow Forest. Some walked toward it. None of them ever returned. And even today, if you drive through the mountains on a cold, rainy night, you may see an old wooden sign beside the road. The letters are faded. The paint has almost disappeared. But if your headlights shine across it at just the right angle, you can still read the warning: "The house that never let anyone leave." And if you hear someone whisper your name from the trees, keep driving. Because the moment you answer, the house will know exactly where to find you.